I have mentioned on the People Daily. Here we are. Ruto dismisses talk of a grand coalition. Our story captured on page 5. Deputy President William Ruto says it is a selfish move aimed at seeking positions and not to mind the welfare of Kenyans. And as we all say, that it is that time where there's the conversation as to whether we have the BBI sailing through, and if it sails through, then what does it mean for the country? Are we going for a referendum to seek to achieve that system of governance that is known as parliamentary system of governance? We're going to have, different leaders from the cadre of course, Prime Minister all the way to presidency and going down and trickling down. And also that aspect of conversations, speaking of, we can't work without a coalition. That then is to mean that a majority of leaders need to conglomerate, to come together so that they can form the government. Are we ready for a grand coalition government like what we have, we saw, or what we experienced during the Raila and Kibaki era? Did it serve as rise? What the purpose? Definitely a question and a conversation that is at hand. And as the DP would say, it is probably not the best deal for the people of Kenya. According to him, he's going it alone at this particular level. He has been able to position himself as a national leader. And therefore, in as much as the coalitions are necessary and working together is necessary, he might not need that kind of arrangement. And so Kenyans and civil servants get improved insurance deal. A story captured right there, a story captured on page 2 in regards to NHIF and health insurance matters. It's not been all rosy, but we all get to see the details of what is entailed in this and what good is or what advantage it brings to the civil service. And big decision as ruling on BBI beckons on the 20th of August to get to know what the appellate court is going to deliberate as to the BBI countdown, as we would call it, and judges prepare for verdicts that will have a big impact on the political landscape as the country prepares for an election. A story captured on page 4. Lawyer Paul Mwangi argues that our legal team put a strong case at the Court of Appeal during the hearings. We expect a favorable ruling. Should the court rule in our favor, the BBI train will be back almost immediately, representing the BBI bandwagon. And Dr. John Haminu, on the other hand, says, going by my experience in the legal fraternity, I don't see reasons why judges should not be compelled by our arguments. The case was very straightforward. As straightforward as it was at the level of the High Court, a question of wait and see. We'll be engaging our leaders or the guests that we have this morning as to that. What is their view? Do they suppose that maybe we should have this conversation of postponing the election? Certainly a conversation that is worth having. Raila changes tack to safeguard strongholds. ODM leader is organizing town hall barazas in his traditional bases to dissuade his supporters from paying attention to the hustler narrative. As has been said, the hustler narrative has managed to gain momentum, and there's been fears that they've also managed to at least woo, so much so, of huge numbers from the side of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And therefore, we wait to see whether, this is going to be the case and how strategic then Right Honorable will come in to make sure that he safeguards his stronghold. Briefly, just look at what is here on page 2 in regards to this deal that the civil servants are getting. Those in job group A to K will access in and out patient services in any facility recognized by the insurer. Civil servants have a reason to smile after the government moved to address bottlenecks in the provision of the comprehensive coverage medical insurance scheme through the National Hospital Insurance Fund. We all know the difficulties that have come along with this funding, and sometimes you go to hospital and you're not even able to get, medication just because the difficulties are quite huge and it's not always clear as to whether you are covered or not. Mutua wife announced breakup and pledged to support each other. This is news that made headlines the better part of yesterday, as of course Mutua later on spoke of the same, and as written, they say that they remain friends and they remain, colleagues and actually workmates. And of course, Lillian Nganga will still also enjoy the privileges of working at the level of the county based on the huge contribution that she has put as to the growth of the county and the growth of Governor Mutua himself. The Standard newspaper eyes on hardliners. They are crucial players in any political negotiations that will take center stage, but at times come out as extremists and selfish individuals out to market their leaders while upping their own political stakes. You can see the faces of Junet Mohammed, sits in ODM, Susan Kihika under Jubilee, but again under UDA. Mutula Kilonzo, that is Makueni Senator, and Wiper Enoch Wambua, Kitui Senator, and we've seen the likes of Samson Cherargei, Nandi Senator, and Gladys Wanga, Homa Bay Women Representatives, Alice Wahome, and many others that have been very vocal when it comes to the politics of the day, and especially if it is a matter that affects or touches directly to their political parties, the likes of Secretary General of ODM, Edwin Sifuna. Just how tough are these individuals towards making their parties have a proper direction, and importantly, just shaping their own political careers. They have been instrumental. They have been, celebrated as key figures. They still are being celebrated, and especially at this point when we're headed for an election, definitely are going to be very instrumental towards shaping the direction that their respective parties will take politically. And Kanu wants Raila in One Kenya Alliance game plan. Well, I am told that they are set to actually have conversation in the course of the week in regards to how they work, of course, in getting the next flag bearer. If Kanu is going to work with ODM, or if the One Kenya Alliance is going to work with ODM. We all know what played out last week with that meeting of President Uhuru Kenyatta alongside other leaders, the likes of Musalia Mudavadi and of course Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Kanu's Gideon Moi. President Uhuru Kenyatta asking these other individuals to support Right Honorable Raila Odinga, but it appears that they also are well set and have crafted their games towards gaining this popularity when it comes to, of course, getting the presidency. And therefore, these individuals have remained adamant as to whether they're going to support Right Honorable Raila Odinga, but we can only wait to see what will happen there on. A story captured on page 8, and we get to see what will play out this week in terms of them holding this meeting. Calls for justice for Embu brothers. Well, the hashtag justice for Kianjo Koma brothers has gained traction, with Kenyans condemning the killings and calling for accountability. The brothers were buried on a Friday, not forgetting also these other ones, and we saw the mom landing in from the United Kingdom to, this sad moment of losing her two sons. Of course, it was quite an unfortunate occurrence. And then, it has been a call of justice right from last week in regards to the deaths of these young men who looked promising, who were schooling and, had lots and lots, of course, plans for their lives. It's been quite an unfortunate week, something that has hugely been condemned. KCSE candidates to no colleges, that is today. This on the placements, a story captured on page 15. Very crucial that these placements are set and then they know their way forward. Earthquake leaves 301 dead in Haiti. It's been quite unfortunate at also time, and also we know the floods in Japan and the bomb blast. It's been quite sad. Not bomb blast, it's actually an oil tanker blast that also got many people losing their lives across the world and in different parts. KRA defies COVID in July, gets 122 billion. It's been a rise on the collection of the tax commissioner, and therefore that is something worth celebrating. And so much more. We get to look at all this later on in the broadcast. Daily Nation, the front page, Ruto tears into Uhuru's 2022 succession game plan. Just how a story captured on page 5, and we'll be looking at all the political intrigues as it now, and just getting to understand how these leaders continue to craft their plans for 2022 politics, and importantly their strategy, and how then they come in handy towards positioning themselves as key leaders. Afghan president flees as Taliban take over capital. It's been a state of despondence in Afghanistan. President Ashraf Ghani flee effectively, ceding power to the Taliban as they marched into Kabul. This story has been followed And one of the key presidents that appeared as though would be able to keep things in order, especially when it comes to the level of politics and instability, is now on, of course, the run, because things have not been all rosy for him. On the international scene, we'll also be following up closely on this story to keep you up to tabs. Nairobi motorists pay more while Mombasa consumers remain the happiest. A puzzle of cheap fuel in Nakuru against principles pricing formula is expected to make commodity more expensive as one travels further away from Mombasa. A story captured on page 7. We all know how EPRA has come in handy to equally address this, and just for us to get to know the prices, the fuel prices, kerosene prices across based on what it is that they set, and of course on different products or commodities. Super petrol, cubic meter, the price is also captured there, the prices of diesel and kerosene, and an extensive report as to why it appears that it's cheaper on the sides of the coast, but moving in to different parts and further away from the coast is a whole different thing in terms of the prices as they adjust upwards. Why vaccine uptake in counties is low? Ignorance, lack of easy access, myths, disinformation, and traditional religious beliefs are derailing the uptake of COVID-19 vaccine in different counties. Well, the nation has gone down to just get situation, and just to paint a picture of the same and get the details as to what could be triggering this at a point where the numbers of COVID-19 continue to surge, and there's that clarion call that we all take advantage of the jab. If you're able to access, proceed and access it. And interestingly, you need to know that there are places where people have been seeking for these jabs in vain. Again, you find that they queue in lines, different hospitals from morning, only to come out of these specific places without the jabs. And therefore we get to understand details of the same as captured right there, as we continue to remind ourselves to be keen on upholding the COVID-19 protocols as set by the Ministry of Health. Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua with Lillian Nganga and to Wildwide Romance. First couple breaks up. We all have been following up on that for the better part of the weekend. We know what has played out as we've gotten reactions from the two individuals. Machakos Governor also just registering his position on this. Of course, something that blossomed was all rosy. It gets to a point where, there's that acknowledgement that people need to go their way and explore and experience different, scenarios in life. Incumbent Lungu urged to concede as opposition leads this in Zambia's poll. Results from around 40 of the constituencies that have so far reported place the veteran 59-year-old opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema ahead of Lungu, who is 64. Story captured on page 9. Lungu also arguing that the process was not free and fair. We are following up closely on that to keep you up to tabs. On matters education, new headache for unions on teachers' agency fees. 2 teachers have moved to court seeking to stop the Ministry of Labour from gazetting the fees from non-unisible tutors. A story captured on the back page in regards to matters education. We definitely have Andrin Kilemi, and we also have Sharon Baranga alongside the entire education desk to keep you up on the loop as to that. Let's look at what we also have